Families often find themselves trying to navigate a system that feels uncertain at the time when the focus should be on the safety and well-being of the child. HB 527 helps address this by requiring child abuse protocols to be regularly reviewed and updated in every judicial circuit. This helps ensure that our procedures reflect current understanding of trauma and child development rather than outdated practices. Children who disclose abuse deserve a system that responds with care, consistency, and understanding. Parents who raise safety concerns deserve to know there is a structured process in place that will take those concerns seriously. From a parent's perspective, one of the most important parts of this bill is accountability. Families need to know that there are clear protocols that will be followed, not just suggestions or informal practices. Consistency across counties means that children throughout Georgia can receive the same level of protection. This bill also strengthens collaboration among professionals, including law enforcement, medical professionals or providers, and children advocacy centers, so that information is shared and children are not lost in a fragmented system. As a mother, I believe that no child should have to struggle to be heard. No parent should have to struggle to ensure their safety. HB 527 is important not only for families facing these situations today, but also for families who may face them in the future. Strong and consistent protocols help reduce confusion. This bill represents a meaningful step towards a more trauma-informed and child-centered system in Georgia. Every child deserves to feel safe. Every parent deserves to know when concerns about a child's safety are raised, and those concerns will be handled with care and professionalism. I am here today because I believe our children deserve the strongest protections we provide. HB 527 moves us closer to that goal. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to the children.
Thank you. Well, hang on. Is there a question for this speaker? I think it's for Leader Wade. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is, and I'd say that the sponsor can also chime in if he feels necessary. And forgive, this is somewhat of a question coming from ignorance.
No worries.
The previous gentleman testified that the compliance with the protocol that currently exists, which is very discombobulated, is a term my mom and dad used a lot around me as a young boy. What do we need to have something to create a sense of urgency so that we don't just transition from one protocol situation? I don't see any dates or timelines, and so forgive me as an education committee member,
For sure.
where we have a lot of in statute, like it's not just a may, it's a shall. By this date do X, by this date do Y. I don't know if the sponsor, but obviously it can become law upon the governor's signature. But is there any mechanism to ensure that compliance actually exists and we meet the objective of helping children? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think from my perspective as someone actually going through this process right now, I believe delay is a major issue between communications, between professionals, whether it be DFACS to SDU or to the guardian ad litem that might be added into the case under a custody situation. And there's a lot of delay, and sometimes you only can go through the guardian ad litem opposed to the proper channels. So I believe there just needs to be a collective understanding and a solid protocol, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Okay.
It does. And then
Yeah, I was going to say, Representative Train, if you want to take the microphone, the Cyrus, you could sit down too.
Madam Chair, if I may have the Office of Child Advocate clarify the timeline?
Of course, but members, while he's coming up, if you look on line 209, it says that the protocol committee shall submit a certification of annual compliance to the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council by December 31st of each year. So that, of course, would help because there is a definitive time that it's due. Also, the stakeholders, if I'm not testifying for you, the stakeholders are generally people who are going to be more hands-on with child advocacy. So and I love my coroner, he's a great guy, but I don't know if necessarily in his world, child advocacy is something he does in his day-to-day life.
makes sense.
And so hopefully we've narrowed it down to people who are more in that scope. Mr. Bruce?
Madam Chair, thank you again. Floor Leader, the two things that this tries to do to enhance compliance are, one, to make the duties less onerous, right? So we've got a lot of elected officials and appointed officials who are required to meet twice a year. They had two different reporting deadlines. It was very confusing for them. So this streamlines all of that to one at a minimum, right? One meeting a year, one reporting deadline, one centralized place to turn those reports in. It adopts from the sexual assault protocol language that y'all put in place several years ago, specific requirements for the Superior Court. It goes from having the Superior Court may issue a letter or an order telling the members that they have to comply to the Superior Court shall issue that order telling them they need to comply, and then providing the possibility of contempt if the Superior Court finds that appropriate. And then it adopts directly from the sexual assault protocol the avenue of having CJCC as the monitoring agency report to elected officials, to the governor's office, to the General Assembly, every year who's in compliance and who's not in compliance, as a way of trying to get that compliance level up. And that's worked really well in the sexual assault protocol. Their compliance levels are much higher because of that sort of public accountability piece than they are currently with the child abuse protocol.
Just a follow-up question.
Please, go ahead.
So I did read those lines 1 through 105. Probably the number 2 complaint that I've experienced this year is just defects, the entire ecosystem you're talking about. And what happens if you have a chief judge or a Superior Court judge, obviously they're different across the state jurisdictions, have a different expectation as the timing to when a punishment for contempt of court should be issued. I'm all for judges having judicial flexibility, but I just have this sense, the families and the parents that are talking to me, I mean, this is the best example of molasses that I've ever seen in my life. This whole world, it's just, I'm a business guy, an education guy. It's not something I've ever experienced. I apologize for the questions, but is this really going to bring things, is it going to help children quicker? Is this framework going to actually meet what you need to make meaningful improvement? And I mean that as a fair question.
Sure. May I answer, Chair?
Of course,
That's
I'm
my
just
last
like,
question.
no, this will be, there'll be more forthcoming on this.
Okay.
So I appreciate your line of thinking. I think most of us, if not all of us in the community, feel the same way. We certainly don't want to leave any of our children in peril under any circumstance. So, please go
I
ahead.
will just say that as someone who's lived this day in and day out from back when I was a prosecutor through being a juvenile court judge and now in this office, I agree with your molasses characterization completely. This is I think at this point, in its current state, is a calculated step forward to increase compliance in a way that also preserves judicial autonomy. We always have that trade-off. We want to make sure that courts will enforce things, but it's difficult to mandate legislatively that they'll enforce things because of that whole separation of powers issue. So I'm open to any solution to put more teeth in this than we currently have in it, because our biggest problem right now is enforceability. So this is, I think, a logical step forward to enhance enforceability. If there are other ideas out there, then I will fully support them.
Thank you for the question. That was a great question. All right, I see flashing over here, Representative Santos, do you have a question? That's okay. No, you're good. All right, Representative Townsend, please go ahead with your question.
Thanks, Chairman Cap. I was going to ask if he could stay at the table and answer this one. First was a kudos as being part of the school system for 30 years in various capacities. You've really, I think, tightened it up, and I think you've got some meat to it, so I think that's really good. Only one little minor thing I'm even noticing right now, because as I read more through it more deeply, you've done a lot with it. When he talks about school systems, a lot of times they're going to send their person in charge of counseling services or something like that. A lot of school systems now have your school police. Only thing I would recommend would be adding maybe that as well. Because if it's not an admin or something like that who's in touch with school police every day, you may want somebody on that side of the school police department as well that knows more about the kids and these type of situations.
Sure. I mean, if there are jurisdictions.
That's just a friendly kind of suggestion. You may want to add that.
There are some jurisdictions that have that, and not a lot, but that can be added to clarify for those jurisdictions, and that's a good idea.
Would that be a substitute that you're offering?
It'd be a friendly amendment,
It'd be a friendly amendment.
just to add.
How do you feel about that, Representative Tran?
I'm okay with that.
All right, let's find some lines. Where would we